I'm Usayd Younis, and I'm here today with Stanley Nelson, director of the new Black Panthers Vanguard of the Revolution documentary. Thanks for joining us, Stanley. What is this film about, and what sets it apart from other films about the Black Panthers?
This is really the first film that talks about the rise and the fall of the Black Panther Party, kind of the good, the bad, the ugly of the Black Panther Party. So I think that's what's unique about the film. You know, the Panthers have been parts of other films. There's been films about individual Panthers, but there's never been a film, to my knowledge, really kind of about the rise and fall of the Panthers. And that's what this film is about. It's about, the Panthers and also those times that created the Panthers, the mid-60s and into the early 70s.
How does looking to the past help with us going forward?
Well, I think it's really important that we understand the past. I think that, especially for young people, it's really important to understand that, movements can happen and movements can succeed and movements can grab the attention of the world. I think that's really important for young people to understand. One of the things that happened for us in making this film was we came to understand that for young people, and you don't even have to be that young, if you're 40 years old, you have probably never seen in the United States a movement succeed, so that, people my age are always, take it for granted that there was this period, in the 60s and 70s when these movements succeeded. But young people haven't seen that. We saw the civil rights movement succeed. We saw the anti-war movement succeed. We saw the women's movement change how things are done in the United States. Young people haven't seen any of that. So it's important to understand that a group like the Panthers, who came from nothing, they had no money, they had no following, they had no power, but they created something that we're still talking about. And it's important for young people to understand that they too can create, change.
Do you have any personal reflections on the Black Panther Party?
Well, for me, I was, 15 years old or so when the Black Panthers came into being. I'm from New York, I'm from the North, I'm from an urban situation. And so, for me, the civil rights movement was around, but it didn't apply to my life and to the problems I was seeing. But the Panthers did. So to clarify that, the civil rights movement was about eating in a restaurant. Well, we could eat in restaurants in New York. The civil rights movement was about riding on buses. We could ride buses. It was about voting. We could vote. And so, although, my heart was in the civil rights movement, like every African-American person pretty much, it wasn't applying to me. The Panthers came out and were talking about issues that were concerned me and concerned us in the North, police brutality, terrible housing, terrible schools, all of those things the Panthers were talking about. And so, like so many people, I identified with the Panthers. Plus, as we talk about in the film, the Panthers looked so cool. Here was a movement that looked cool, with the leather jackets and the shades and the berets. They were very different from the standard civil rights movement with Martin Luther King and, suits and ties and all of that. It was a whole different look and a whole different way of confronting white people and confronting power that the Panthers had that was so attractive to me and so many other people.
So what actually came of the Black Panthers? And do struggles like the Black Lives Matter movement linked to their legacy?
What exists of the Panthers to this day is much more of a cultural movement. They changed the culture of African Americans. Before the Black Panthers, you never saw this kind of, outright confrontation of power. This kind of in-your-face, attitude that is so kind of, for better or worse, it's such a prevalent attitude of African Americans. As we say, you couldn't have had hip hop without the Black Panthers. That whole attitude was something that was new, and it's hard for young people to understand that was new. We never saw a black person get up in a white person's face like the Panthers.
In terms of the Black Lives Matter movement in the US, you mentioned about police brutality being like really hot on the agenda right now. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, I think one of the things, it took us 7 years to make the film, and we had no idea that, while we were making the film, as the film would come out, that this whole kind of Black Lives Matter and this anti-police violence movement would erupt in the United States so vocally and so much in the media. Obviously, there's so many connections between, the Panthers of 50 years ago and what's going on today. I mean, the Panthers started, in Oakland, California, as a direct fight against, police brutality, and one of the reasons why they caught on was, all around the country, as we illustrate in the film, African Americans were like, we're having the same problems here with the police. I want to join. I want to join this, and they started creating Panther offices. So I think obviously you have that connection between what's going on today, but hopefully you have this other thing that's happening, this kind of movement that's kind of coming up from the ground, coming up from the ground with a whole new set of leaders. That a whole new set of people who are involved. That's the one thing that I love about what's happening with young people today, in Ferguson, in Baltimore, in New York, because you're not seeing, the old leaders who are my age and back from the civil rights movement. The young people are saying, no, we got this, we got this. Let us handle this.
And what do you see as the future of that movement? Do you see because obviously with the Black Panthers we saw there was a kind of program that was designed to disrupt them and destroy them. Is there any way that could happen again?
I think the main challenge for young people in the States is to become organized. That's the main challenge. And I think in some ways that's where social media helps, but it also hurts, because with social media, you can organize instantly. We're gonna have a march and we're gonna meet on 42nd Street at 9 o'clock. Everybody be there. But it's harder to create the kind of leaders and create, issues, so what are we marching for?
Great. Stanley Nelson, thank you for talking to Ceasefire.
Thank you so much.